Welcome back to Modern Ronin Media. I'm Tommy, and this is the channel where we talk about filmmaking for people who love the art of filmmaking. And if you guys haven't been watching any of the videos, today may be a little bit different for you. So, first off, we're in a new position. Figured this is story time more than doing at the bench with reviews or doing at the computer with screen capture. We're just going to be talking today. But before we get started, I got to ask you guys, if you guys like what you see on this channel or any of the videos you like, do me a favor, click on the like button, hit the subscribe button, and of course that little bell icon next to the subscribe button. Click on all notifications so you know when new videos are uploaded. Please comment and share this off if you find it interesting or useful. So let's go into some of the issues and how we got over them. So as I just said, on some of the motion control shots, I had to lock focus in at a point. So there's an overhead shot that I think we showed in the, I think we did show in the backlot.app video where the camera pans over a bed. And instead of doing the second shot to that, which was a tripod at the end of the bed with the main character popping up, we just ended up doing that move with a tilt at the end and the character popped up. So the focus was to the bed, not to the character. And so the director was fine with it being out of focus. In fact, she kind of liked the fact that he came in focus for a moment, then went out of focus, and then we had cut out of that scene. But with a solid focus, what's the word? With a solid ability to pull focus through the Cine Shooter app, or I think it's Chaos, and be able to time that, it would have been so much better. And again, we did at the theater stage, a lot of it's covered by an insane amount of smoke that we used. We pushed the entire 7.5 feet of the track. And we had things out of focus. Fortunately, the smoke kind of also added diffusion. The filters added diffusion. So it works. And it's supposed to be kind of this ethereal space that a character resides in that's kind of out of focus in general. So it works, and there's a strong backlight that really just adds another glow to it. So those were some issues that I would have loved to have fixed. Light and light control was another issue that we had, because we had our largest light being the 300X that was bouncing basically off the ceilings or through an 8x, which is one thing I forgot to mention. We did bring the 8x. And so we had an 8x8 that we used twice. One in the living room scene at the house location, and one which was an 8x8 with a half grid. And the other was the 8x8 with the black solid to block out the ceiling at the stage. All of which worked out perfect. But having more lighting control and more lights would have done wonders. One of the big issues on the wide shots that I wasn't planning for, none of us had the ability to see physically this location prior to day one of shooting, was the ceilings were barely 8 feet. I think they were if they were over 8 feet, they were 8.25 to 8.5 feet. The 8x with the attachments for the grid, which are these elastic things with a little ball on the end that you've all seen them before. With that, the 8x actually could not go completely vertical. It had to be about 2 to 5 degrees tilted back. That's how low the ceilings were. So we had no ability to sneak hair lights on the wide shots. I tried to use, and because we had in the foreground some of the ground, some of the wood flooring showing as what we had talked about with the director. We couldn't, and how am I trying to say this? All of the chairs that we use, the chase lounge that you'll see in some of the clips, and the chair that the doctor sat in, were all open underneath. So you couldn't hide a light back there. The best thing I could do was to put one of these little MCs, these colored lights behind me, up against the leg of the chair and hide it and try to shoot it straight up and give the wall some off color, or just to accent a wall or two, and hide them in a plant. So having low ceilings is something, as a DP who is doing a location scout, you need to be very aware of. Bouncing light is great, but being able to control a little bit more would have been better. So one of the things that we did do on the wide shot was we shot it with the 100D at full power using the aperture lantern. I don't know which one it is. I think it's the older one, not the new bigger one. But it gave this nice soft wraparound light. And there was a lot of light spill that you couldn't control, but we were able to use the skirt that came with it so it didn't completely act as uncontrolled light. And we were able to adjust it so the main character, I wanted to shoot in shadow, on shadow side as much as possible. It became a little difficult with the way the light was in those shots. But by sitting in there and playing with stuff in the foreground, there's a part of a desk that runs almost parallel to the doctor. So we're having slight things that will add depth, and we were able to cheat those low ceilings that way. The other issue that we had was we were on a public road one day, running lines, getting ready to shoot this. I think it was one of the close-up shots. I'm not 100% sure. And for 5 minutes, the trash man came, and you could hear it through the walls. On another day, we heard guys out there with their little air blowers for an hour, and we had to shut down production for that. These are things that you can't really predict when you're shooting in a residential area, and you're not on a stage. Had we had the budget to take this to a warehouse and build these sets, which it's not always practical to do that, and sometimes it's not even smart to do that. What we could have done was very easily have set this up with light, and again, this would, like I'm saying, a whole different budget range. Lights coming in through the windows, and we could have peeked over the top of the set with hair lights, so the camera would have never seen above the set walls. These are things that are great as I'm talking to you guys, looking back on, that aren't practical. I try to be honest with you guys, there were some disagreements between me and the director on certain shots that maybe weren't exactly scripted out, but that they wanted to do. Ultimately, it's a director's call, as long as we have time and the ability to shoot it. If the director would have asked me to do a tracking drone shot and I had to come all the way home to get the drone, I probably would have been a lot more adamant that, hey, we can't do this. I'm not a drone pilot. If there's safety involved, you definitely got to hold your ground with that. We did have a simulated firearm on the set, which I brought up on a couple occasions. Hey, we need to be very aware and very safe with this, considering what has happened recently. So these are things that when you're on set, whether you're a grip, a camera PA, a focus puller, and you see things that just don't seem safe, you have the power to bring that up and say, hey, camera op, can you tell the DP this isn't right? Or go to the DP, go to the director, because when it comes to safety is the number one thing. Fortunately, we had no real safety issues. The only driving scene that we had was a car going 15 feet and pulling out and then pulling away. No fires, no other things. Another issue we did run into was an exterior night scene and some lighting that I disagreed with. But again, I can voice my concerns, but is it going to be... Sometimes you have to wonder if it's worth the fight. And also, if the director's adamant about it, we shoot it. So no matter how many times you have an issue with a certain shot that the director is doing, as long as it doesn't affect the overall timing or ability for the production to complete what is the key shots, shoot it. And from my personal experience, 99% of those times, those shots that you shot never even make it to the film. So it is what it is. Then again, a lot of what you shoot doesn't make it into the film. Or maybe because this is one of the first times that I'm glad that I got to hand this off to an editor. So there may be shots that I don't like that end up in the film. There may be shots I loved that end up in the film. We'll see what happens from there. So we've had location issues. Fortunately, using the aperture lights and using such low-powered lights in terms of their LEDs, they don't draw a lot of wattage. We never came close to tripping a breaker. We never came close to stressing out the electrical capacity of that home. Now, had we been shooting HMIs and tungsten bulb lights, that would have been a whole, trust me, that would have been a whole different story. But that is something as doing your location scouting that you probably should look into is, are these lights going to tax or draw on the power supply of the house? Do you need generators? For us, that was not an issue. One of the things I didn't expect was how much smoke we used at the theater setting, which did catch me off guard because there was a couple clips that I did review that, thank you, DaVinci Resolve and Object Remover, where some of the smoke had gotten onto the lens and it just was so subtle we didn't see it until I started pushing some of the colors and was able to say, oh, this is smoke dust on the lens. And one of the issues with smoke, if you haven't used it, is it does take quite a while to dissipate. So try to stack your shots with smoke and without smoke. So for us, we ran a couple test shots with both characters without smoke, which I was pretty adamant, like, we need to shoot this first. Because I did know it took a while. I didn't realize it took that long to clear the smoke. So when we finally said, yes, smoke is the way to do it, we just went crazy with it. So those were the biggest issues. In terms of, for me, I'm a sleep whore, and the least amount of sleep in over a week I've gotten in a long time, but it was worth every moment of it.